He actually thought selling my motorcycle while I was at work was a parental right. He had no idea the evidence I found in his desk would put him in prison. Honey, pour yourself a large one. I'm talking the biggest glass you have, because the story I am about to spill is going to make your blood boil so hot you could cook pasta in it. You know that feeling when your stomach just drops through the floor? That cold, sickly slide that tells you your life has just swerved off a cliff? I felt that at exactly 9:13 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was 26 years old. It was 2 days after my birthday, a day which, by the way, had passed with the enthusiasm of a wet paper towel. No cake, no party, just a grunt from my father and a side eye from my mother. But that morning, I got a text from my dad, Richard. No good morning, no hope work is good. Just 6 words that shattered my world. Sold the bike for the family. No punctuation at the end, just that dry, clipped audacity. Like he was ordering a pizza, not telling me he had just pawned off the single most valuable possession I owned. Let me back up, because to understand why I eventually went scorched earth on my own flesh and blood, you need to understand the family. My name is Leo, and in the kingdom of the suburbs, I was the peasant. My father, Richard, was the king, obsessed with image, obsessed with the Thompson legacy, and obsessed with money he pretended to have. My mother, Susan, was his silent general, nodding along to his madness to keep the peace. And then there was Caleb, my younger brother, the golden child, the prince. Caleb was 20, useless as a screen door on a submarine, and treated like he was the second coming of Einstein. While I was working double shifts at a warehouse and delivering food at night to pay my own way, Caleb was finding himself on my parents' dime. The bike in question wasn't just a bike, it was a custom restored Triumph Bonneville. I had bought the frame as a rusted piece of junk when I was 21. I spent 5 years scraping my knuckles, saving every penny, and scouring eBay for parts to rebuild it. It was my freedom. It was the one thing in that house that didn't belong to them. It was mine. So when I saw that text, I didn't cry. I laughed, a dark, hysterical little laugh. I thought, surely this is a joke. Surely he means he moved it to clean the garage. Then came the second text. Be grateful we let you live here. We needed the cash for Caleb's semester. That was the moment the switch flipped. I had been paying them $500 a month in rent to live in a room I grew up in. I bought my own groceries. I paid my own insurance. And he had the nerve, the absolute unmitigated gall, to tell me to be grateful that he committed grand larceny because Prince Caleb needed tuition money. I typed back, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. That title is in my name, Richard. You can't sell it. The bubbles popped up, disappeared, popped up again. It's already gone. Buyer took it this morning. Don't bother coming home if you're going to be dramatic. We did what had to be done. Dramatic. He called me dramatic. I left work. I didn't even tell my boss. I just walked out. When I got to the house, the garage door was open, and where my beautiful chrome and black masterpiece used to sit, there was nothing, just an oil stain and a tarp folded in the corner. My mom was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables like everything was normal. She didn't even look up when I stormed in. Where is it? I asked. My voice was dangerously quiet. She sighed, that heavy martyr sigh she perfected over decades. Leo, please, your father is stressed enough. Caleb's tuition is due on Friday, and the liquidity just wasn't there. You know how the business is. Ah, yes, the business. My father's mysterious investment and restoration LLC. He claimed to flip classic cars and bikes. He claimed to manage assets for wealthy clients. In reality, he spent most of his time in his office with the door locked, moving money around like a shell game to keep up appearances. That was my property, Mom. That's theft. That is literal theft. She finally looked at me, and her eyes were cold. It's a family asset. You live under this roof. Your assets are family assets. Stop being selfish. Caleb has a future to think about. Selfish. I worked 60 hours a week. Caleb played video games and failed intro to philosophy, but I was the selfish one. I went to my room. I didn't scream. I didn't break things. I grabbed 2 duffel bags and I started packing. I packed my clothes, my laptop, my documents, and then I stopped. I realized something. If they were willing to sell my bike behind my back, what else were they willing to do? I walked down the hall to my father's home office. The door was usually locked, but in his haste to play the big shot and sell my bike, he'd left it ajar. I slipped inside. I wasn't looking for money. I knew there wasn't any. I was looking for leverage. I opened the top drawer of his mahogany desk. Messy papers, unpaid bills, final notices. But then I saw it, a ledger, an old school black leather ledger. My dad didn't trust computers with the real numbers. I flipped it open, and honey, when I tell you my jaw hit the floor, it wasn't just my bike. There were lists of VIN numbers, cars, motorcycles, even a boat. And next to them names, deposit taken, sold, pending. But here's the kicker. I recognized some of the names. They were his friends, people from the church. He was taking deposits for vehicles he didn't own, using that money to pay off other debts, and then stalling the buyers with excuses about parts on back order or shipping delays. It was a Ponzi scheme, a sloppy, desperate, small-town Ponzi scheme. And right there on the last page was my triumph. Sold $9,500 cash. He sold a $15,000 bike for $9,000 just to get quick cash. I didn't steal the ledger. That would be a crime. Instead, I pulled out my phone and I took photos, page after page after page, clear, high-definition photos of every damning entry, every fake transaction, every lie written in his own jagged handwriting. I put everything back exactly how I found it. I walked out of the office, grabbed my bags, and walked out the front door. I was sitting in my car, engine idling, staring at the house that had never really been a home, when my phone buzzed. It was Caleb. Mom says you're throwing a tantrum. Dad says you need to pay the rest of my tuition too, since the bike didn't cover it all. $4,000 due by Friday. Don't be a dick, Leo. If you are already shook, hit that like button because I haven't even gotten to the petty part yet. That text, that was the nail in the coffin. I blocked Caleb, I blocked Mom, I blocked Dad. I drove to a cheap motel on the edge of town, paid for a week in cash, and sat on the lumpy bed. For the first 24 hours, I did nothing. I just sat there, letting the anger metabolize into something cold and hard. I felt like I was detoxing from a lifetime of gaslighting. Maybe I am selfish, a voice whispered. Maybe I do owe them. But then I'd look at the photo of the ledger on my phone. Deposit, Mrs. Gable, $5,000 for 1965 Mustang. Mrs. Gable was our neighbor. She was 80 years old. He was scamming an 80-year-old woman. The next day the war began. I was at work, my warehouse job, when I got summoned to the manager's office. My boss, Sarah, is a tough woman, but fair. She looked uncomfortable. Leo, she said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk, we got a call. A man claiming to be your father. He says you stole company property from his business before you left home. He's threatening legal action if we don't garnish your wages. My blood turned to ice. He was trying to get me fired. He knew he couldn't legally garnish my wages without a court order, but he wanted to scare my employer. Sarah, I said, keeping my voice steady, my father is a con artist. I moved out yesterday because he sold my vehicle without my title or permission. He is trying to sabotage me because I cut off his supply of money. I didn't steal anything. She looked at me, really looked at me. He sounded unstable, Leo. He said you were on drugs. He said you were dangerous. I pulled out my phone. I'm not on drugs, but I can show you the police report I'm about to file for the theft of my motorcycle. I hadn't filed it yet, but I was going to. Sarah nodded slowly. Okay, I believe you. But keep this drama away from the warehouse, Leo. I can't have cops showing up here. I walked out of that office shaking. He was trying to ruin my livelihood. He wanted me broke, desperate, and crawling back to him so he could control me again. That night, the flying monkeys arrived. My aunt, my cousins, even a guy I went to high school with who I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. My dad had spun a narrative that I had stolen family heirlooms and abandoned my brother in his time of need. "How could you do this to your father?" my Aunt Linda texted. "He's working himself to the bone for you boys." I didn't reply. I just kept organizing my evidence. I printed out the photos of the ledger. I downloaded my bank statement showing 5 years of rent payments. I found the original bill of sale for the Triumph frame showing my name, not his. 2 weeks passed. I found a small studio apartment. It smelled like bleach and sadness, but it was mine. I was eating ramen and walking to work because I had no car and no bike. Then I got the email. Subject, urgent, family trust audit, legal notice. It was from my dad, or rather from the law office of Richard Thompson, LLC, which wasn't a law office, just him typing in a different font. "Leo, you are hereby notified that you are in breach of verbal contract regarding the family support agreement. You owe $4,000 for Caleb's tuition balance plus $2,000 for emotional distress caused to your mother. If this is not paid by Monday, I will be filing a civil suit for theft of trade secrets, the ledger you looked at." He knew. He knew I'd seen the ledger. He must have checked the room after I left. I stared at the screen. He was threatening to sue me for looking at the proof of his crimes. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. I decided it was time to stop playing defense. I took a day off work. I put on my one good suit, a charcoal gray one I'd bought for a funeral, and I walked into the local police station. I didn't go to the front desk. I asked for a detective who handled fraud. I sat down with a Detective Miller. He was a tired-looking guy with a coffee stain on his tie, but when I laid out the photos of the ledger, his eyes sharpened. "Walk me through this," he said. "This is my father's handwriting," I explained, pointing to the columns. "Mrs. Gable given him $5,000 for a Mustang that doesn't exist. Mr. Henderson gave him a deposit for a Corvette that my dad has never owned. And here," I pointed to the last entry, "is my motorcycle. He sold it to a chop shop 3 towns over. I have the title. He forged my signature." Detective Miller leaned back. "This is extensive. If this ledger is real, your father isn't just a thief, son. He's running a structured fraud scheme." "I know," I said, "and he's threatening to sue me to keep me quiet." Miller took copies of everything. "Don't contact him," he said. "Let us handle the investigation. These things take time, but we'll look into the chop shop first. If we find your bike, we find the thread that unravels the sweater." I walked out of the station feeling lighter than I had in years, but the universe wasn't done with me yet. 3 days later, my mom showed up at my job. I was loading a truck on the dock when I saw her standing by the security gate, waving frantically. I walked over, wiping sweat off my forehead. "Leo," she cried, grabbing the chain link fence like a prisoner. "You have to come home. Your father he's losing it." "Not my problem, Mom." "He received a call from the bank," she hissed. "They froze the business accounts. Someone reported suspicious activity. Was it you? Did you do this?" I looked her dead in the eye. "I didn't call the bank, Mom, but I did talk to the police about my stolen bike." Her face went pale. Police! Leo, are you insane? You don't involve police in family matters. He sold the bike to help your brother. Why are you so jealous of Caleb?" "Jealous?" I laughed. "Mom, Caleb is a 20-year-old toddler. I'm not jealous. I'm done. Dad stole my property. He committed forgery. That's a felony. And if you knew about it, you're an accessory." She recoiled like I'd slapped her. "I am your mother. I gave you life. And you've spent the last 26 years making sure I knew I owed you for it," I said. "Go home, Mom. Tell Dad to get a lawyer, a real one." I walked away while she was still screaming my name. Make sure you're subscribed because the update I'm about to drop is going to make you scream. The climax happened a week later. I was sitting in my studio apartment eating cold pizza when my phone rang. It wasn't a block number. It was Mrs. Gable, the neighbor. Leo, her voice was trembling. Honey, are you okay? There are police cars at your parents' house, lots of them. I stood up. What's happening, Mrs. Gable? They're taking boxes out of the garage, she whispered. And oh my heavens, they just brought Richard out in handcuffs. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was happening. I drove over. I shouldn't have, but I couldn't help myself. I parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest. It was a spectacle. The entire neighborhood was out on their lawns. Blue lights flashed against the perfectly manicured siding of my parents' house. I saw my mom sitting on the front porch, sobbing into her hands. Caleb was standing in the driveway, looking at his phone, looking completely lost, like he was waiting for an Uber to take him away from the consequences. And there was my dad, the king. He was being shoved into the back of a cruiser. He looked disheveled. His comb-over was messed up. He looked small. As the car pulled away, I saw Detective Miller standing by the garage. He spotted me and walked over. We found the bike, he said, unprompted. Is it in one piece? I asked. Mostly, he grimaced. The guy he sold it to had started stripping it for parts. We recovered the tank and the engine, but the frame is intact. We also found the rest of the ledger and a safe full of cash he was hiding from the IRS. How bad is it? Bad, Miller said. Wire fraud, forgery, grand larceny, tax evasion. He's looking at 5 to 10 years minimum. He scammed half the church, Leo. I looked at the house. I looked at my mom, who was now screaming at a female officer. I looked at Caleb, who finally looked up and locked eyes with me. He walked over, his face red. You did this, he spat. You happy now? Who's gonna pay my tuition? Who's gonna pay for the house? I looked at my brother, this grown man who had never been told no in his life. You are Caleb, I said softly. Welcome to the real world. I hear the warehouse is hiring. I turned around and walked back to my car. I didn't look back. The fallout. That was 6 months ago. The fallout was nuclear. My dad was denied bail because he was considered a flight risk. Apparently, he had a stash of cash and a passport in a go bag hidden in the attic. The assets were seized. The house, my childhood home, was foreclosed on to pay back the victims, including Mrs. Gable. My mom had to move into a 1-bedroom apartment across town. She still sends me emails from random addresses telling me I'm the devil and that I destroyed the family legacy. I delete them without reading. Caleb? Well, Caleb dropped out of college. Daddy's money dried up, and he couldn't hack it working a real job to pay his own way. Last I heard, he was sleeping on a friend's couch and trying to become a crypto influencer. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I got my bike back. Well, pieces of it. The police released the recovered parts to me. I went to the impound lot to pick them up. Seeing the tank, my hand-painted custom tank scratched and dented, broke my heart a little. But then I met the guy at the impound lot, an old biker named Stan. He looked at the parts and then at me. You built this? He asked. Yeah, I said. Took me 5 years. You got good hands, kid, Stan said. Shame about the old man, but metal remembers. You can fix it. Stan offered me a corner in his shop to work on the restoration. I'm there every weekend now. It's going to take time, maybe another year to get her running again. But that's okay. I have time. Update 2, legal action. The trial hasn't started yet, but the plea deal is on the table. Dad's lawyer, a public defender because he has no money left, is begging him to take 7 years. Dad is refusing. He still thinks he can talk his way out of it. He thinks he can convince a jury that he was just borrowing the money and that I'm a vindictive son who planted the evidence. Good luck with that, Richard. The best part, the IRS is involved now. It turns out the family fund wasn't just fraud, It was tax fraud. He hadn't paid taxes on any of his income since 2014. They are tearing through his life like a swarm of locusts. Final update, the karma. I ran into Mrs. Gable at the grocery store yesterday. I tried to duck down an aisle, ashamed, but she saw me. She walked right up to me and hugged me. I stiffened, expecting her to yell at me for getting my dad arrested. Thank you, she whispered. I pulled back. Thank you? He stole $5,000 from you. And because of you, I got some of it back from the seizure, she said. And he can't hurt anyone else. You did the right thing, Leo. You're a good man, better than he ever was. I almost cried right there next to the canned peas. I'm still living in my studio. I'm still driving a beat up car. I don't have a legacy or a trust fund. But when I go to sleep at night, I don't have to worry about the door opening. I don't have to worry about my things disappearing. My dad wanted to teach me a lesson about family sacrifice. Well, I learned it. I sacrificed him to save myself. And honestly, it was the best deal I ever made. So let me ask you guys this. Was I the jerk for going straight to the police instead of giving him a warning? Or did King Richard get exactly what was coming to him? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tea. Stay petty, friends.